Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Gleeman. If you're returning, welcome back. So, today is going to be a bit of a doozy. The video I'll be breaking down is Sur-reality by JadedFett, and it does feature yours truly. But I was very interested in getting my teeth into this one, simply because that there's two layers to this that I wanted to dive into. One of them being something that struck me from my past, which I've stated before. I have an art degree, and so JadedFett features a lot of art history in this video. And I was like, oh, what a perfect chance to flaunt my art degree just a little bit. And it also lends a little bit of perspective for everyone. Uh, in the meantime, just as far as how it connects to the second point, which is the lyrics of the song, and we'll get into that. But going to the first point, the art history being referenced, while having a few outliers, it's mainly focused on the post-impressionistic movements in the art world around the late 1800s. These include Cubism, Surrealism, and Expressionism. These movements, as their overarching movements, post-impressionism implies, were born out of the Impressionism movement, which in of itself was a response to the realism and naturalism art styles of their time. Um, Now, I just threw a whole bunch of words at you, and I apologize for that. Basically, what it comes down to is that Impressionism came out of the artistic need to get away from just depicting what's there, just depicting reality, and wanting to see more in the subject that's being painted. And with Impressionists, they did this. Let me switch over here. There we go. And here we go. So this is. Oh gosh, let me look at my notes. Yeah, Edouard Manet. He was one of the first Impressionists, and later came Claude Monet. So Monet is spelt with an A, and Monet is spelt with an O. That's how you tell them apart. But Monet came first, and then Monet came after, and Monet is a bit more recognized for Impressionism simply because of oh, I'm completely blanking on the painting, but basically it's a wall of lilies, and everybody uh, knows that painting, or at least back when I was in college, everybody knew. um, but yeah, anyway, um, this is Monet, and as you can see, he didn't depict like hard shapes or give great detail into the painting, because what he wanted to bring forth in the painting was how light and color affected the image that he was seeing. As you could see, like uh, light and shadow are what are emphasized here, um, instead of the actual shapes themselves. Um, so that is Impressionism. So we've taken a step away from reality to emphasize a metaphysical aspect of reality. Um, while it's still in the physical space, so to speak, we're just taking that one step away from actual reality to examine something within reality that's not necessarily there, so to speak. So here um, is another step away from that. So after Impressionism came Post Impressionism, where artists wanted to further dive into that abstraction of reality. And this particular one, it's one of my favorite artists of that time, is Cezanne. He wanted to emphasize color and line work in order to bring forth a sort of form to the landscape or the subject that he was painting. So now we're divorced from actual light and shadow and using color to depict those, to using color strictly as a means to establish form within the composition. So then, from Post Impressionism, it branched off into several different forms of art. One of them was Cubism, which we see with, which was made famous with Picasso. And what Picasso was attempting to do was, it's a very odd idea, but kudos to him for trying. What he was attempting to do was show the shape of the object, or the object in space, from different angles in space all at once. So like we see in this is it this a lute, the instrument, we're not seeing it from one single vantage point. We're seeing from the side, we're seeing from the bottom, we're seeing from straight above it, and we're also seeing the back of it as well. So, and it's all distorted because it, the shape isn't from just one vantage point. And it's sort of like this thought experiment on canvas, essentially. So then we have Surrealism. Now, Surrealism took us away from simply abstracting the image itself. So we see here in Salvador Dali's A Persistence of Memory that he went back to a realism in the image. Like you can clearly see everything. There is no fuzziness or hard to make out what the actual image we're looking at is. But what he did was he changed the reality within the painting. He changed some sort of physics within the painting or some way to discern that this is not reality. And he did that by melting, quote unquote, the clocks onto these surfaces, so that we know that what we're seeing isn't actually reality. And so it is a surrealism. It's realistic enough for us to know what we're seeing, but there is an abstraction in the actual physics or definition of reality inside the painting itself. Now, the last one was Expressionism, and this was a more direct line from Impressionism, because if we went back to the Impressionistic paintings, what you see is the strokes. We still see these very rough strokes of the brush, but they're rather rigid and they're more focused on conveying that light and color within the painting, and not so much trying to it's still conveying a still image, if that makes sense. Now with Expressionism, they took that idea of rough brushstrokes and then applied it so that we now have a sense of motion within the painting. So instead of a static, just up and down or sideways, the strokes flow with the shape so that it conveys a current in the image. And this is Van Gogh's Starry Night, which is one of the most famous examples of that. Now, all of that to say, those movements were an abstraction of reality, to step away from reality and look at the metaphysical aspects to reality. And so I wanted us to go into this video with that mindset, and then we can parse out the lyrics as we go. And so here we have Avted's Fatash. Now, I'm not going to call out all of the cameos. You know me, guys. I'm already almost 15 minutes into this video, and we're just starting the video. So, anyway, I did want to stop here and show that he has gone with something more of an impressionist style for Van Gogh than Van Gogh's later on expressionism. But this sort of starts us out. We're still somewhat within the realm of reality. just a little bit unfocused now.
How do we know what beauty is? What beholder's eye defines the sky?
So, and honestly, at this point, I can't remember if I went into this detail, but the lyrics are blah blah blah, automatically drawing us into two different thought processes that complement each other. One of which is the concept of existentialism, which is the philosophy of finding meaning in a meaningless world or in a chaotic world. And since we're talking about the very essence of our existence, we're also called to study that existence, which is the study of, or not the study of, it's what we call ontology. And that is the study of existence itself, the study of the metaphysical. So now we have a marriage between this post-impressionism art styles and the lyrics, which are delving into that blah, 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 existentialism, or the metaphysical.
Colors dance twixt chiaroscuro renaissance. Benchmarks laid, logics rayed, cerebellum flayed. Is art truly naught but pain? Redefined.
So, in the first verse, we have, how do we know what beauty is? What beholder's eye defines the sky? Colors dance twixt. I cannot say that word. But a renaissance, a renaissance being a rebirth. Benchmarks laid, logics rayed, cerebellum flayed. Is art truly naught but pain redefined? And so what we have here is a questioning of what is art, and how do we define it for each person. So benchmarks laid can be talking about that art movement. We have certain benchmarks that were laid forth as far as lighting from the Impressionists, and then each movement to the next, they are laying benchmarks of how we are redefining reality. Logic's raid can mean that the art movements in of themselves are not necessarily logical, because we are abstracting from reality, and one of the things that art was meant to do is to capture reality on canvas. Cerebellum flayed. The cerebellum is the part of the brain that organizes our positioning in space, images, color, sound, all of that is how we orient ourselves. And in these movements, in this art of the post-impressionism, we are now redefining that space that in which we live. Is art truly not but pain redefined? That is an interesting question. I would have to disagree. I like that the question is asked, but we've seen many cases where what is being depicted isn't painful, and the process wasn't painful. In fact, it was a joy. And the joy is being expressed on the canvas. So at least there's a question answered there. Okay, so question everything. See what's there to see. That's essentially what art is for. Am I right? And what is the meaning of this reality? So there is that question of existentialism, questioning one's own existence, and trying to define meaning within a meaningless world. Creativity blurs the lines, and that blurring of the lines, I think, relates back to the actual movements of Impressionism versus, or not versus, but Impressionism and Post-Impressionism. We're actually blurring the lines on the canvas between what's real and the void, between what's seen and what could be. And in so blurring of those lines, we are seeing what is possible with art, not just describing what, and describing is the wrong word, not just depicting what you're actually seeing, but trying to take in more of the space by redefining that space.
What if the future is sur-reality?
That is an interesting thought. What if the future is sur-reality? So with surrealism, it's that element of we're looking at reality, but there is something not real in it. And I think that question is quite interesting as far as the existentialism goes, because we know that the future is coming. The future is a certainty of sorts, insofar as 1 second follows another. We know this, but we don't know anything about it, insofar as that certainty is quote unquote unreal. It has no basis in reality because it hasn't happened yet. So yeah, very interesting thought experiment there. did want to pause here and just I love this particular imagery of the water droplets as diamonds, and um, JadedFett um, actually ties this back to Eustace's um, Skybrows in the Sky with Diamonds video, where the raindrops falling into the ice cream landscape.
How do we know what art is?
And of course, we have Skybrows himself.
Who defines what sates the mysterious soul?
And this is actually very reminiscent of Salvador Dali's surrealism. And I love the incorporation of the more vibrant colors. Salvador Dali was much more muted in his coloring.
Imagined into possibilities, becoming realities, dreams, becoming art, becoming dreams, emotion stands across the gate, withheld passions now create, dragged out onto the screen, can art even really be defined?
Okay, so we have how do we know what art is? Who defines what sates the mysterious soul? Imagined into possibilities, becoming realities, dreams becoming art, art becoming dreams. Emotion stands cross the gate, withheld passions now create. Dragged out onto the screen, can art even really be defined? Quite the existential questions. How do we know what art is? That is an age old question, and the following thoughts go into or divulge us into the mindset of the writer, who defines what sates the mysterious soul. And that's basically art is in the eye of the beholder, right? And so one person might see something and consider it bad, and not artistic at all, and another can see the beauty in the image, or at least the meaning of it. So we have to question what is art in the first place. And it is a rather difficult it's a rather difficult question or idea to conceptualize, since we can see something that is seemingly at random, something that wasn't necessarily meant for to be seen as beauty, or to be seen as quote unquote art. Which, now that I think about it, I think that is the crux of the idea. Art is meant to be seen. There is an intention behind it. Now, We can look at nature and call it artful whenever we see a very beautiful sunset, or we see the beauty in nature. For me, there is an intent in there, and that comes from my Christian upbringing and my Christian worldview, because there is an intention within nature by God's hand. So that fits very well with my worldview, that definition of art, that it is intended to be seen and it's intended to mean something, whether that be beauty, whether that be pain, whether that be joy, any of these intangible qualities that can be expressed within physical reality. So getting back to the lyrics, can art even really be defined? I think it can. I think too much of the time we are quibbling not over what is art, but what is good art and what is bad art. Too many of our definitions are changed so that we are no longer defining what is, but what we feel what is. And there's actually a great C.S. Lewis foreword in one of my favorite books, The Great Divide. He talks about his lamenting of descriptor words that no longer describe, no longer describe reality, but describe one's feeling of reality. In his case, he was using the word gentleman. Gentleman actually had a description. It was describing a reality of men who held land. They were landowners of a certain kind in England, and they actually had status within society. But over time, the word gentleman became synonymous with acting like a gentleman. And after a while, instead of simply talking about how a gentleman should act, the word became more about that action than about the position. And so when someone described someone as a gentleman, they were no longer describing a reality insofar as this person meets the description of owning land and having status within society. It was, oh, they are acting a certain way that I like, which we already have good words for. You could simply say they are acting like a good man. And so C.S. Lewis was lamenting the fact that words sometimes lose their definitions because we input our feelings into them rather than they describe a certain reality. And you know what? I lost myself, but I found myself again. So that goes the same way with art. We could say that art is the intention for something to be seen for a specific reason, whether or to cause a certain emotion, let's say, within the observer. Now, whether that emotion is brought about doesn't take away from the intent of the art itself. So the artist could just be a bad artist, and therefore their art does not affect the audience or the observer the way the artist intended. But the intent was still there. So it's not upon the observer or the beholder in this case to define what is art or not. It is the artist, it's himself or herself.
Question everything, see what's there to see. What is the meaning of this reality? Creativity blurs the lines between what's real and the void between what is seen and what could be.
I just had to stop here because, one, I look absolutely adorable here. And two, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, JadedFett, but did you know that I was a slime when you did the video? Because I've seen quite a few people within this space either describe me as a shellless turtle or a frog. And I'm wondering if the frog is the prompting that you ended up putting into the AI. Just a question. Because the movements and everything make me think frog. But here we see a little bit of cubism. The wall itself is being seen from several different vantage points, going forward, going back, and we're not quite certain where we are in space.
What if the future is sur-reality?
And so from here on out, we go over the same lines. So I will stop it there. And if you guys want to see the rest of it, then you can go to JadedFett's channel and watch the rest of it without me interrupting all the time with my thoughts. But yeah, I just wanted to conclude JadedFett. Thank you for putting me in your video, and thank you for giving me something to really dive into. This one wasn't as structured because I wanted to allow myself to ask those existential questions in real time and see what I came up with for myself in the answers. Some of the questions still linger because they are age old, and some of them I hope that I could help at least a few viewers find the answers that best suit them. But yeah, if you guys like the video, you know what to do, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye.